بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا كثيرا. فما بعد, my brothers and sisters, today this is the first part of a series of lectures, Wallahu alam how many it will be eventually, which I am calling root cause analysis. Root cause analysis is a technique that we use for problem solving. We use it in the corporate world, but you can use it anywhere, which is focused on drilling down to the root cause of anything. Why? What is the reason why something happens? Now, medical professionals are very familiar with this because this is what they do, at least the good ones. They go down to the reason why something is happening. They are not satisfied merely with treating symptoms. They want to go down to say, why are these symptoms? And obviously the reasoning for this is very clear. But we don't always use this in our lives, which we should. And that is what I have called the series of these lectures. Inshallah, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us to say what is beneficial and to understand that and to apply that and be benefited with it, inshallah. The purpose of Islam is to solve the problems of this world in a way that gives us success in this world and the akhirah. I want to emphasize this because often we fall into the either or trap when it comes to the practice of Islam. Not surprising, because we have all been raised in a climate of render therefore unto Caesar the things which are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's, which the Bible quotes as the response that Jesus, Isa alayhi salam, gave to the Jews who were trying to trick him into forbidding the Jews from paying taxes to the Roman government. Now, they would then have used this to implicate and condemn him before Pontius Pilate, who was the Roman tax collector for Judea. I mention this not because of taxes, which we Muslims must pay, but to point out that this later became the spirit in which the separation of the church and the state happened in Europe and globally. This is completely antithetical to Islam. Unfortunately, historically, our own ulama have also taken this stance, this either-or stance, expressed as deen or dunya. The reality is that deen is not the opposite of dunya, but it is the way of living in the dunya. Deen gives us the criteria for making decisions, good decisions in our lives, which are in the dunya. If we did not have the freedom to choose, there would be no need for guidance about the consequences of choices. Living Islam is about making the right choices, and the framework to do that is called deen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't send us into the dunya to live it, but to live in it according to deen and help others to find solutions to societal problems. Leaving the deen or ruhbaniyat is a non-Muslim concept and the practice of extreme asceticism that was the way of Christian monks and Hindu sannyasis. There is no monastic life, there is no ruhbaniyat in Islam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned this very clearly, La ruhbaniya fil Islam, aw kama qala alayhi salatu wasalam. Muslims came to demonstrate the Islamic way that makes people winners. As long as we did that, we had moral authority, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us power. When we stopped being demonstrators and instead became imitators, we lost our moral authority and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took away our power. Today, we have voluntarily restricted Islam to some areas of worship, some selective application of the Sharia, and have taken to the ways of others blindly. We are not even intelligent enough to see that those people themselves are intensely unhappy in their ways because those ways have destroyed their societies. We condemn their ways, but we imitate them. And then we are surprised that nobody respects us. The Muslim Ummah today is like a ship that is caught in a storm, battered from all sides by hurricane strength winds, trying to throw the ship onto the rocks and sink it, while the ship itself, its sails tattered, is leaking badly. In such a situation, if we want to remain afloat, we must ensure that we do three things. Number one, be aware of our own strengths and weaknesses. Very clear, no rose-tinted glasses, no self-deception. Clearly, we must be aware of our own strengths and weaknesses. Number two, we must understand the nature of the threat and how to overcome it. We need a strategy of how to overcome the threat. And the number three is demonstrate the way to overcome the challenge and succeed. Ultimately, it is execution that means everything. Knowing the way is not enough to reach the destination. We must actually walk on that path to the end. Remember that people listen with their eyes. They don't care what we say until they see what we do. Today the world demands that we demonstrate Islam or we stop talking about it. It is literally put up or shut up. That's our call. I want to begin, therefore, with a Swot analysis of the Muslim Ummah. Swot stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And this is a model that we use in business to assess the health of a business. It can be used in any situation, including individuals, personal, as well as NGOs or whatever. Now, let's do a quick. This is my SWOT analysis of the global Muslim Ummah. Strengths. 3. Number 1, faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Akhirah, which is our fundamental creed, which gives us enormous resilience and the ability to recover from personal disaster. Number 2, growing awareness and confidence, especially among the youth, to learn, practice, and become exemplars of the Islamic model. I have great faith in the young generation. Great faith. That does not mean they have arrived. It means that we have grounds to hope that they will do what it takes to succeed. Number 3, growing awareness of the gulf between the ulama and the general Muslim public, which has difficulty applying Islamic knowledge in their lives, but unfortunately the ulama are unable to guide them adequately. Now, we are, let us look at the weaknesses. Number 1, Muslims are ignorant about Islam. They are superstitious and sectarian, divided into groups. Education methodology, especially in Islamic schools, has no focus on application in real life. We just purely teach theory. Ulama are slow or no to respond to emerging challenges. Intolerance for dissent in Islamic education and hero worship, blind taqleed. हमारे अकाबिरीन ने क्या कहा? Blind taqleed of teachers leads to inability to dialogue with people of different beliefs. Read that last one as our children. Our children today in many cases are people with different beliefs. We see dissent as rebellion and not as welcome difference of opinion, and we treat it likewise with brutal suppression. We have forgotten adabul ikhtilaf, if we ever learned them, which is how to disagree without being disagreeable. Disagreement in our case doesn't result in deeper understanding and better solutions, but in the formation of yet another sect, yet another faction which hates everyone else. There is a huge, very visible gap between our teaching and behavior, which destroys credibility. Credibility falls through the gap between talk and walk. This has given rise to another group which thinks that they have the right to legislate in Deen without any preparation in the academic sciences and behavioral training that is necessary to understand Islamic law. We pay lip service alone to Tazkiyatul Nafs wa Tarbiyatul Akhlaq. We don't do either of these. Number 2, fragmented thought, fragmented people, fragmented leadership, and no appreciation of challenges that face the Ummah. Therefore, no specific thought-out action plan. More focus in our teaching and conversation on divisions than on commonalities. We spend hours in our madaris and darul ulooms critiquing and criticizing the books and the fatwa and the rulings of eminent scholars and students of those classes who have no credibility whatsoever to look at any of those scholars, walk around making hugely disrespectful statements about a decision of somebody who spent his whole life trying to understand and teach Islam. This is so shameful, and the responsibility of this is on those teachers who are teaching their students this kind of thing and calling it knowledge. There's no collective approach except in times of traumatic upheaval. No attempt thereafter to deal with the reasons for the crisis so that it never happens again. We are great firefighters only. Third one, lack of vision at all levels, including the topmost leadership, religious and non-religious, religious and temporal. We have no think tank for scenario planning to leverage challenges. Our allergy to reading, constructive dialogue, our addiction to social media and frenetic lifestyles all result in our inability to even understand the crisis that we Muslims face locally and globally, let alone solving it. Biggest of all, lack of followership. It is easy to claim love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Sahaba and to sing nasheed and to send durood on him sallallahu alaihi wasallam. My question is, if Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam were to come among us today, how many of us would be willing to follow him as the Sahaba did? Think carefully before you answer to yourself. It has nothing to do with me. Because the Sahaba paid a price for following him. Are we willing to pay that price? What was the price that Sumayya bint Khayyat and her husband paid for following Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? What was the price that Abu Bakr as-Siddiq paid for following Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? I can make a list of names. Are we willing to pay the same price? Today, everyone is a mufti. We like those who agree with us and condemn the same people in one instant if they say something we don't like. When I advocated wearing masks at the beginning of COVID, when I advocated wearing masks, washing hands, staying away from gatherings, including the masjid and praying by Jama'ah, and I did this with giving dalail of hadiths of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. People wrote to me and said, you should renew your iman. You have left Islam. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. Because I take refuge in the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which is in Musnad Imam Ahmad, that when a Muslim calls another Muslim kafir, one of them is a kafir before Allah. And I know that I am not a kafir. Our rating of the greatness of an alim is based on Facebook likes and YouTube hits. We have people who spend countless hours making YouTube videos which are full of ghibah and slander, refuting, maligning and character assassinating scholars they don't agree with, all in the name of Nahi Anil Munkar. Yet, we want the world to revere us as role models. Ajib. Opportunities. to fulfill the purpose of our creation and benefit all mankind by providing thought leadership to the world. Number 2, to become role models for the world to look up to and emulate. Number 3, to show Muslims ways to practice Islam so that our lives can become beacons of guidance as it was with Rasulullah ﷺ and his Sahaba. Threats: concerted, hugely funded and highly focused efforts to undermine Islam and disconnect it from life using the best brains, the best technology and global media. Number 2, ignorant, apologetic Muslims psychologically succumbing to the pressure and advocating changing Islamic law and the Quran without understanding either. Number 3, increasing disconnect between ulama and the average Muslim, leading to the latter, to the average Muslim feeling that Islam is a way of worship, all right, but not much else. The problem with the approach of our leadership is that they talk almost entirely about problems and don't give solutions. At best, some of them give incomplete solutions, leaving the rest in the realm of imagination. The result is that Muslims have developed a victim mindset. We blame the world for our condition, yet we do nothing to change it, even where we have the opportunity. We have no role models of applied Islam which show success in this world today through actions that promise success in the Akhirah. Examples we quote are of the practice of Islam, are of people who lived in the remote past and whose lives have little that is immediately in common with today's challenges and problems. The issue with the practice of Islam with most Muslims have today is it's a how issue. It's not a why issue. It's a tools issue. It's not an issue of being convinced. Even people who are convinced are unable to practice because they don't know how. They don't have systems to support them, and they have no means of developing these systems themselves. Now, this is a huge opportunity to create such systems and to build a support system for people to practice Islam. A good example is that after 1444 years, we still do not have a model for global interest-free banking. At the peak of the subprime crisis, think about this, at the peak of the subprime housing crisis, loan crisis, when the evil of the debt equity model was brutally clear because of the number of people who found themselves on the street, and the world was ready to look at a system of finance to beat the boom-bust roller coaster of global finance. We could have taken center stage if we'd had a workable zero-interest financial model. Did we? Ask why not. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's purpose with sending His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam with Islam is to guide all of mankind to the path that will guarantee them a beautiful life in this world and Jannah in the Akhirah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, "Man amila salihan min dhakarin aw untha wa huwa mu'minun falanuhyiyannahu hayatan tayyibatan wa lanajziyannahum ajrahum bi ahsani ma kanu ya'malun." Allah said, whoever works, and this is in Surah An-Nahl, Allah said, whoever works righteous deeds, whether male or female, while he or she is a true believer, which is a Muslim, verily to him or her we will give a good life, a beautiful life, hayatan tayyiba, a pure, beautiful life, with respect and contentment and lawful provision. And we will pay them certainly a reward in proportion to the best of what they used to do in the Akhirah. The condition of success is that we follow the path of Islam. This is logical when we realize that to benefit from any method, we must follow it without deviation or change, be that physical fitness or weight loss or gain swimming, flying a plane, or driving to any destination. You can only succeed if you follow the path to the end. So also in life. Islam is the path to success. We can succeed only if we walk on that path fully to the end, not partially, at will. Our challenge is to show the benefit of the Islamic way of life in all aspects of human existence and demonstrate how the Islamic way is better than any other way and makes its follower a winner. Demonstrate that, not just talk about it. Once people see this clearly, they will be willing to listen to the benefits of Islam in the Akhirah, which are linked to living in the Islamic way. Simply talking about Jannah does not influence anybody when they see Muslims around them living the lives of losers. No influence, no power, no moral values, no nobility, shameless extravagance, and complete and total irresponsibility. People who talk but who don't walk their own talk. Nobody is impressed. If you want to test my premise, randomly ask 3 Muslim youngsters who their role models are and what they want to have in life. If we want the world to change, we must first change ourselves. The challenge is to clearly differentiate based on Islam. Show how Islam makes the Muslim doctor a better doctor, not a better Muslim. Show how Islam makes the Muslim doctor a better doctor in the eyes of his patients. Show how Islam makes the Muslim teacher a better teacher in the eyes of her students. Show how Islam makes the Muslim politician a better representative in the eyes of his or her constituents. Show how Islam makes the Muslim technologist, business person, scientist, husband, wife, son, daughter, employee, employer, all better in their respective roles in the eyes of those who deal with them. When we can do this, we can stop talking about Islam because people will see Islam in practice. Until we can do this, talking about Islam does not help because people cannot see Islam. That is the crux of the matter. That is the solution. We must transform ourselves from being merely guardians of knowledge to demonstrators of how to leverage that knowledge. We are currently a repository of knowledge. We are like those who own a library of automobile engineering books but walk home every day. We need to convert knowledge into practical reality that makes winners in this world. Then not only we, but the whole world will ride. Because for any ideology to have an effect, it must first be translated into working models. Our Jamiat and Madaris, our religious institutions, have done an admirable job of preserving and protecting theological knowledge. However, they have fallen short in converting theological concepts into practical reality. I don't lay the blame solely at the feet of the ulama. Muslim intellectuals and scientists and professionals have also failed to volunteer to partner with Islamic scholars to work on application models. The atmosphere of mutual suspicion and veiled hostility that exists between these two groups is a major reason why this healthy and very necessary partnership does not happen. The question always is, who will bell the cat? My answer is, no matter who does it, this initiative must happen for Islam to become practically applicable in our world. Consequently, Islam is taught like we teach any other ideology. Islam is not merely an ideology, but a practice. Islam सिर्फ नजरिया नहीं है, Islam अमल का नाम है. And like all practices, it works only if it is practiced. You can know all about judo, but unless you know how to do judo, you will be killed in a street fight. To know how to do it, you must spend time in the dojo, under the guidance of a sensei, until you are an expert in applying judo. Ditto for Islam. We must practice under the guidance of a sheikh, that until we become expert. It is our duty to translate the ideology into practical methods that can be applied and which will benefit the practitioner in this life itself. We do this in an organizational consulting setting where to sell a new business model or a new initiative, we run a pilot program as proof of concept. When that succeeds, the method can be applied worldwide. That is what we need in Islam. A good example of how knowledge gains popularity when it benefits people directly and these benefits are visible is to look at the popularity of yoga. That opened the door for Hindu preachers to preach their ideology to people who come for the exercise and they start experiencing its benefits. If we merely keep teaching ideology and theory without translating it into practical models, people view it as a dichotomy when they hear what we say but they don't see us practicing it in our own lives. And we and our message lose credibility. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala defined our purpose clearly. And He said, كُنْتُمْ خَيْرَ أُمَّةٍ أُخْرِجَتْ لِلنَّاسِ تَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَتَنْحَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ وَتُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ. Allah said, which means you Muslims are the best of people ever raised up for the benefit of mankind, all of mankind. And you enjoy al-ma'ruf, everything which is good and which Islam permits, and you forbid al-munkar, which is everything that Islam forbids, and you believe in Allah. Quite justifiably, the world is asking today, if your way is so good, why don't you practice it yourself? That is the question that we have to face. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us to practice what we learn and what we preach and what we talk about, and to become living, walking, talking examples and role models of the beauty of Islam. وصلى الله على نبي الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.